If you're like me, you like fantasy books in general, but you're kind of afraid when you go to the bookstore and you see all sorts of kind of cheesy looking covers. You've maybe picked some up and they were kind of hard to read, or they left you wanting something that only it seemed Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings could scratch. It's been a while since I found a new series that I was really excited about. I just stumbled on this book and I really loved it, so I thought I'd talk about it on the vlog today. The book is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. One of the reasons that I got excited about this book when I saw it, this book is one of 14, which means that it's going to last you a while. You can read this series and it's not going to be over in 3 books. Robert Jordan, the author of this series, who unfortunately passed away from cancer in 2007, he sounds like a really interesting guy. He described himself as a history buff who enjoyed hunting, fishing, sailing, poker, chess, pool, and pipe collecting, which I think are all prerequisites to some degree for fantasy writing. This is self-described as similar to Tolkien and inspired by the Shire. This first book especially takes on some themes that are very similar to the Fellowship of the Ring, the first book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But it has some differences too, and there's a lot here that I think readers that enjoyed Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings would really enjoy. It's also interesting to note that Robert Jordan and J.R.R. Tolkien both served in the military and both saw war firsthand. And I'm sure that had some effect on the way they wrote about conflict and about bloodshed and about the meaning for war in general. Let's talk a little bit about plot. The story centers around a character named Rand, and Rand lives near a small village in the middle of nowhere. A few outsiders come to the village. He and his father decide to go into town to attend a festival, and things go poorly. The action kind of develops from there. The characters themselves, there are a lot, which is typical for a fantasy book, and they change quite a bit throughout the story. I'm already into the second book, and I can tell you that there's been development. There are static characters, of course, but most of them have a fair amount of dynamicism, and they're changing all the time, and you definitely can feel for the main character throughout. In Lord of the Rings, I always felt like the hobbits were a little bit of the exception in Middle-earth. You know, it was this magical little corner of the world that was different than the rest. There is an element of this book that builds on that, but I will say that there are a lot of differences, and by no means is the home place of Rand and the other characters a perfect place, or it's more a part of the world than the Shire is in Lord of the Rings. We'll say that much. There is kind of the same theme of renunciation of power, meaning that there is great evil in the world, and these characters are put on a journey to try to destroy that evil and make the world a better place as a part of it. One of the things that the Wikipedia article brought up that honestly I hadn't really thought about too much, but I can really appreciate now when I look back, is that, you know, this book was written or published in, I think, 1990. It was published in January 1990. There is a strong theme of women in power in this book, and that's a cool thing. There is a society of women that is called the Aes Sedai. I believe that's how I say it anyway. They are a group of women that are fighting evil. I don't know, it's just cool because, you know, in some fantasy books are too male dominant, but this one definitely has strong women characters and lots of them, and really interesting ones, not shallow at all, or they're not just there to be playthings of the men. This book is equally gray as the world. There are many different forces that are on the spectrum of good to bad. Obviously, there are bad characters that you know for a fact they're bad, and there are good characters that you are pretty sure are good. But there are an awful lot of groups and characters in this book that you're not really sure where they fall on that spectrum. There are competing forces in this book that are all trying to do good things. There's different nations and groups that think that what they're doing is going to solve the problems of the world, and what other good groups are doing alongside them is evil and bad and contributing to the evil in the world. Boy, doesn't that ring true? Doesn't that represent the way our world is? In general, I think there's a great move towards positive thinking, towards good change in the world. But there are a lot of disagreements about, you know, which group is really doing the best thing for the world. And so I don't know, that's kind of my favorite part of this book. If you like this book, you can pick it up super cheap. It's a whopping $8 on Amazon Prime right now, so check it out. I think it's a great read. I didn't have any problem getting into the story, and I don't know, I just thought it was a great book. So check it out. Once again, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan.